Hello and welcome to Renew Wales in Conversation. Our topic today is waste and the circular economy. And we have three very knowledgeable contributors ready to chat. Would the three of you just like to introduce yourselves briefly, please?
Yeah, I'm Margaret Minhinnick. I'm a Renew Wales coordinator and a mentor, and I'm the director of Sustainable Wales, a grassroots charity, and I'm one of the directors of Sust Wales, a community cooperative, a town centre, green and ethical shop, with a small space for performance and events, and both are based in Porthcawl.
Lovely. That's very hard to follow, Margaret, but I'll try. So I'm Cerys Jones, also a Renew Wales mentor, but also co-founder and director of Repair Cafe Wales.
So good company there. I'm Chloe Masefield, and my husband and I own and run Natural Weigh, which is a zero waste shop in Crickhowell. So we've been open sort of just over 3 years now, and when we opened we were the first in Wales, and now lots more have opened up since then, which is really exciting. So part of a big movement is what we like to think.
Yeah. Oh, great. Well, I was wondering how you got started. So maybe, Cerys, how did you get started, and tell me, what was your motivation?
Yeah, of course. Well, interestingly, I was living in Cardiff at the time. This is 2017, and I saw a social media post where a chap was asking for some help to set up a repair cafe. I didn't have a clue what a repair cafe was, so promptly Googled it and realised that it was basically a monthly event in a community, completely volunteer-led, where volunteers turn up for 3 hours a month in a nice venue. The public turn up with broken things, and the volunteers fix those broken things for free. So it's a lovely little, community venture, if you like. When I started reading it, immediately I just thought this is a no-brainer concept. Like, this should be everywhere. And I was brought up sort of wearing fourth generation clothes. My mum fixed everything. Nothing was wasted. So within me, there is that sort of core value of sort of repairing things and reusing things. So I guess that was my initial motivation, is sort of my core values, and then being able to put something on that meant that the community could have a really lovely resource there. I didn't realise I was creating a monster, because we've now helped 60 repair cafes set up across Wales. So it's obviously needed, I would say. But yeah, that was my inspiration.
Fantastic, yeah. I've never been, well, of course, because of the pandemic, we haven't been very many places anyway, but I'd love to come in and meet you properly and have a look around and everything. But have been, Chloe, to Natural Weigh before the pandemic in Crickhowell. So I did see how you were functioning a little bit. I didn't kind of meet you, I don't think. It was an older volunteer, probably. But you tell me about how you started and what was your motivation.
Yeah, sure. So it's the timing's uncanny, Cerys, because it was 2017 really when we sort of, I just suppose, decided to do Natural Weigh, and it was after seeing a shop that opened like hours down in Totnes. So they were the first zero waste shop in the UK. They were selling all loose food. The idea being people bring reusable containers, so to keep resources in use rather than sending them off for recycling, and to get rid of that single-use packaging. That was like the key message around it, to sort of stock products that people can't find without single-use, particularly plastic, but any type of single-use packaging really. So we saw their shop down in Totnes, and we had a chat to the owners, and they were really helpful and keen to get more shops like theirs opened up. And we thought, this sort of really chimes with what we think is important. I think a lot of people feel like when you're in the outdoors, you see a lot of litter, and that, I suppose, is like the origins of it. We like going out for walks, and when you see litter, it does ruin it a bit. So when you think, what can I really do to help combat that? This seemed to fit well for us. So yeah, that was our motivation really. We thought we'd give it a go and see if we wanted something like this. Hopefully other people did too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, in Porthcawl, our project, the one that I mentioned, Sust, it's interesting because I kind of see what you're doing. I see what we're doing that is also plastic free, but totally different. And with Cerys, which is about 15 or 16 years actually, it's been going. It's offering the community, this is what I see, a practical opportunity to respond to the ethical agenda, and to encourage, like active citizenship via the power of the purse. So to support at the same time town centre renewal, independent shops and so, which are much more interesting when you go to a community, aren't they? And a big aim of it actually was to support our charity, Sustainable Wales, financially. And what it manages to do, it pays for all the operations of Sustainable Wales, but it doesn't pay for staff, and nor does it pay for staff yet for itself. It's had phases when it has done with some grant support and that kind of thing, but it's, we're in Puthcall. This is what I kind of wouldn't mind discussing. What, Chloe, you're in Cerys, you're in the city. To me, Crickhowell is more middle class than Puthcall. Ours is financially a lot more viable now than it was even before the pandemic, actually. So I see the interest growing. So we'll start with that, perhaps discussing. Do you see the interest growing? Why is there a change emerging? Oh, well, let's say, okay, let's Cerys, you start.
Yeah, we definitely see changes coming. I think I just dropped out then, Margaret, so I think that's what you were asking, if there were changes coming. But yes, essentially we do see changes coming, and I think part of that is evidenced by the fact that we've got so many communities in Wales reaching out to us to say we want a repair cafe. The demand is there for communities to want to reuse initiatives in their locality. We've also, interestingly, just been given some money to open a reuse and repair hub on a high street in Newport. So there's definitely a push for high streets to really change in a completely different way. So maybe moving towards that lovely sort of more independent, less massive shop type people taking over high streets that actually benefit communities. So we're definitely, seeing a lot of that. And I suppose the third thing that we've seen is that when people come to repair cafes, it's suddenly becoming it's becoming cool to reuse and repair. So we have all sorts of people that turn up our repair cafes. People because they are environmentally focused. People because they literally cannot afford to buy a new Hoover, and so they need theirs fixed. There's all manner of reasons. Some people turn up just for a chat, and they, maybe they break their items on purpose. I have no idea. But there's so many reasons they turn up. But the fact that it's becoming cool is amazing, because we do need that sort of mindset shift culturally in Wales for citizens to really start thinking differently about how they look at products and packaging and all of that stuff. And I guess the final thing for us is the recent changes in Welsh Government and the promises that have been made there. So they've, part of a Labour manifesto promise was that 80 repair and reuse hubs would be set up across Wales in the next 5 years. So, and the Ministry of Climate Change that's just been implemented. I think there's huge amounts of change coming, and I'm particularly proud to live in Wales at the moment.
I think you're right. But what about you? Before we move on to the politics, then, just a bit more about the practical. What about Natural Weigh and the increase there? Because I'd like to ask you a little bit. Would you tell me that first? How is a customer base increasing?
So there's more, so we opened, like I say, sort of 3 and a bit years ago, and already we've moved to a larger shop. Okay, it's not loads larger, but it is a bit bigger, which is nice. And that's reflected by sort of a reflection on the fact that we've received more custom, that it's a popular shop. I mean, even on a small high street like Crickhowell, we're able to make it a success. I think I'm gonna say it's a success. And you see sort of, you're probably right in saying it's more of a middle class area there than Porthcawl, but we do get a wide variety of people in, and it's not. I think people have this perception that it's going to be very expensive, or sort of not the sort of things that they purchase, and so it's taken a long time to change that mindset. And we do try and frequently post about how our price comparisons with supermarkets for our products. We do try and keep our staples as affordable as possible. We work on the basis that we do pay all of our staff, though, and they get paid above minimum wage, because it's important to us to offer local people high quality employment as well. So we are getting more customers, and it is going well, and we hope it will continue to increase. COVID was a difficult time, I think, for everybody. Money was tight for everyone, so understandably that was a sort of, for anyone in retail, I think that was a bit of a tricky time, but we're coming out of that now, so we're always looking to the future and hoping it's going to be better and better, I suppose. It's interesting though, what Cerys was saying about the sort of it becoming cool. Sometimes we have a bit of a battle on our hands with how trendy zero waste is becoming, because people see this like how it should look, and they feel like they have to go and spend lots of money on beautiful glass jars for their home, or I don't know, like bamboo cutlery and crockery, and they throw away all of these other things that they have. And so when we first opened, we had lots of people come into the shop, and it was quite a new concept. So they were asking us questions about how it worked. And some people would come in and they'd very sheepishly sort of sidle up to you and be like, "Can I bring my plastic container in?" Yes, bring it in, use it again. It's great. And so we do have this kind of, it's really good that it's becoming popular and a bit more mainstream and a bit more like trendy. But I think sometimes places like Instagram create a perception of it being very expensive and unattainable, and a different sort of idea than what we're trying to promote, which is reusing things that you already have, and like Cerys says, not wasting stuff. Everything can be used.
Alongside developing these projects, there's a massive amount of time needed on the information level to encourage the changes that we want. And I feel that, generally speaking, politically, the business sector in Wales has wanted us to create an income that matches exactly what you're doing dead easily, and there's not enough proportionally money allowed for the marketing that's really needed. I've seen that over the years, because we used to run nappy laundry service. Well, I didn't run it, I was part of the project. A gentle touch nappy laundry service years ago, and it was so much information is needed to encourage that behaviour change that you want, and communication at the grassroots level, and it's never been backed sufficiently. But maybe, as you're saying, we started to discuss, it is changing politically. But just one thing I just wanted to ask you, this is really kind of, in a sense, personal to the projects. But I don't feel in Porthcawl we could have this scheme where you have hoppers filled with nuts, cereals, or whatever they're filled with. That loose way of refilling that you do, I feel we couldn't do that. That the goods, there wouldn't be enough customers to make it financially viable, and that the best buy dates would go. Do you ever find that problem that you've got to throw out something because the best buy?
So we have, it's a good question, and we do get asked it in the shop sometimes. So we very conservatively went for products that have a really long best before date on them. It's all dried goods, because we were concerned, what if demand isn't enough, and also we want to have the range to offer people. So you get lots of things in, even if some of them aren't going to sell very quickly. We've had a discussion with our environmental health officer and our EHO. The products we sell don't have a sell by date on them. They're they have a best before date, at which point their quality will begin to deteriorate, but they're still legal to sell. So we do make sure we advertise or try and put on everything what the best before date is of the batch that's in the container. We have a policy whereby if things go past the best before, we donate them to a community kitchen in Abergavenny, but there's no reason to say you couldn't still sell those goods. As to whether it would work in different areas, we had, particularly when we first opened, we had lots of people contact us and ask, I'd love to open one in my area. Can you take me through like how much it costs to set up and, the ideas of different things? Now, we did ours, we wanted it to be a really attractive, really appealing, easy shopping experience. And also, we looked at our demographic. Crowell is a bit more middle class. It had to be something that was quite slick. So ours was expensive to set up because that's what we wanted it to be, a really good example of how you can do this sort of a shop. But you don't have to have fancy gravity hoppers on the wall. You can have scoop bins. You don't have to have the posh scale systems for self-service. You can just have bog standard scales where people can weigh stuff and everything can be done on a till. We've gone for organic products because that's important to us. But if an area is going to prioritize getting food into their homes, and then they don't need to have organic, or maybe they can't afford organic food. So you can have, that brings the price point down, and the food is very affordable. The only thing I think that would stop somewhere being successful in an area, because I feel like every town could have a zero waste shop, as long as it's done in a way that reflects what the community wants in that area. The only thing that really would stop it, I think, is if you had a supermarket there already that's just so convenient and it's just got all the same food and it's got a range of those foods. And so why would, it's very difficult to then draw people away from that. And that was one of the reasons we chose Crowell, because it didn't have that. We felt we were filling a gap that was there rather than trying to create a need for something that was already being fulfilled.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Well, just to say that sells, it does do refills of washing up and laundry and all that kind of thing. But we also have obviously a lot of fair trade goods. And it's interesting, isn't it, when you start looking at their goods, there's loads of items made out of bike parts or spanners and screws and all sorts of things, and recycle something. The people in Asia, India and that, they've been making these reused goods for a long time. Saris, we have dresses made out of saris. So, yeah. So there is opportunity to try and influence the change with very attractive products and ways of delivering and communicating with the people to make the project interesting. But what about discussing a little bit about circular economy? The change from, the language is linear economy, but it's like a line, isn't it, where the economy's been developed all over these years, where we take the resource, we make something out of it, and we dispose of it. A one-way system instead of a circular system. So maybe how do we influence change there? Maybe Chloe, is it your turn to talk? No, Cerys. Sorry, Cerys. I haven't got you visually on either. Can we start talking about how we might push the circular economy forward? The whole idea of things are just used constantly or again and again, which is a climate change issue and an ecological issue, isn't it? And a resource insecurity issue,
Absolutely massive. And I think it's interesting because it does go back to that cultural mindset shift that citizens and businesses need, not to mention local authorities and Welsh Government. Everybody really needs that shift in mindset. And I suppose at the Repair Cafes, we're really, really lucky because we practically help people do that. So I guess if they come, they don't They don't care where they're going to get their toaster fixed for free. They're not bothered. They just want their toaster fixed, and that's just the way it is. That's what they think when they walk through the door. Actually, by the time they've sat down opposite their fixer and they've watched that person go through the complex intricacies of that item being opened, diagnosed, repaired, and put back together, the appreciation for that product, and then suddenly everything else that sits within their house and that they purchase is very, very different. So having these types of initiatives is really important, I think, towards the circular economy. And it's really interesting what Chloe was saying before, because I went through a period of feeling really, really guilty because I would look at my plastic toothbrush and think, I shouldn't have that. I should have a bamboo toothbrush or something like that. It was like society, if you're in the third sector, in this sort of environment, you're like, oh God, the guilt. And actually you come out the other side of it and you start looking at actually everything needs to be, not only built to last as long as possible. So there's a massive manufacturing issue there in the first place, because quite a lot of the items that we see through our repair cafes are not repairable because of the way that they've been manufactured. So that's one issue. But then when they are in circulation, we really need to consider how we keep those things in use for as long as possible. And it's very irritating that, we have so much waste around us, because, for so many reasons, consumerism's gone mad, of course. Products are made more cheaply, and it's probably not even a word to say, but cheaper. And if your toaster has broken, you can go to Argos and pick another one up for £10. So actually, it's not a brilliant way to move forward. So I think circular economy is the way forward. I think we've got a long way to go, but I do think there are so many initiatives in Wales that are starting to battle that. I've gone off on a complete tangent now. Sorry, Margaret. Chloe, what are you going to say?
No, it's fine.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Cerys, do you think there's a job to be done about teaching people how to maintain stuff? Because I think sometimes there's a bit of a gap in people's knowledge. Like, I don't know why this is broken. Oh, you weren't cleaning it properly.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, but even just basic repair. So, I mean, I would absolutely love it if part of the Welsh curriculum from day dot was, actually included life skills and a lot around, circular economy. So actually, how do you sew that patch in your shirt or your trousers or your dress? How do you put a new plug onto something? How do you change a fuse? It's really basic things. And we've really lost those skills over the last 100 years that our grandparents definitely had. They were lucky because their products, generally were built to last. But, coupled up with a lack of skills, we were going in completely the wrong direction. I'm hoping that, by sort of, having repair cafes and all these other sorts of initiatives in places that can be seen. So, having Natural Weigh on High Street where people walk past, it makes them think, all of those things. I think there's a massive, massive piece around education for sure.
Yeah, really important. Yeah, I think the new curricula that's coming in is more inclined. It looks like to me like it's going to be there's going to have to be a response from teachers, although I think they're going to need practitioners like us to help them actually to educate children about their future, what it means, what it will mean to them, what they might need to consider and do and behave like.
Yeah,
and so on.
I agree, Margaret, but my concern is we're not moving radically or quickly enough.
No,
so,
sure.
Whether it's trying to set some carbon targets or moving to circular economy, we're just not moving quickly enough.
Yeah.
And I just think we really need. I think what's happening in Wales is seen as radical. It's still not radical enough for me.
No.
There's far more that needs to be done.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think where do you think the effort should be put then? Just in practical projects, in politics, where?
I think it needs to be integrated across the entirety of society. I know that sounds like a big job, but actually if you start tapping into education, health, when it comes to good quality food, Chloe, that's affordable, I think it needs to be put in everywhere. And I think, the government and businesses have a massive responsibility here because the citizens can't do it all by themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of emphasis is put on education at schools as well, with children. And although obviously that is really important, sometimes I feel like other generations get forgotten and missed. So we've done a talk for like the local Rotary Club and local WIs and things like that. And these people are really keen. They just don't know, and no one's telling them. There's no information out there. They may not be particularly internet savvy, and the echo chambers that they're within, it's not even a topic of conversation. It's just their children that are mentioning it to them occasionally. So I think Cerys is so right. It's got to be integrated across society, because otherwise people get left out and it takes too long. Because if you educate all the children, then we're basically saying we'll just wait. We'll tell them all. We'll wait, and then they'll be able to see us sort it out later. No. And kind of, we need a bit of we need to create a lot of momentum now.
Yeah. It's really, I kind of feel that it's always having to be propelled from the grassroots. You know, these practical projects, other people say, why haven't we got it in our town? Why haven't we got this? It's always felt like that, and it still does, really. Though I think we're getting some politicians who are younger, a little bit more tuned in than we've been having. And there's got to be this connection between illustrative projects that link with politics, that get the politicians to back them, want them, and to push civil service, to push, to get this agenda going. As you said just now earlier, faster, quicker. It's really, really urgent. And projects like ours, I'm going to say, are wonderful. They're absolutely fantastic. They are brilliant. We've got to do more, but how do we do it? How do we do it? Do we need to be in networks? I kind of think networks are pretty good things if they've got some sort of strong coordination and pressure behind them to show stuff, to strengthen the movement. Like Renew's a network, isn't it, of practitioners establishing best practice and ways forward for the future. Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah, I've got a dream, Margaret, that there is an online space somewhere where anybody that's set up a successful project puts how to do that on an online space. So you could go there and say, actually, how do I set up a zero waste shop? How do I set up a remote cafe? How do I set up a library of things? That is my dream, really, is to have a sort of online resource for Wales.
An online hub. Yeah, I've often thought Sustainable Wales could have done that, or maybe still could, but one of the troubles is because we're so grassroots, and it's not easy to get financial income, especially below. I always say below them 4. Yeah. And so many times the projects have failed. But there's so much effort needed to go for these grants, and you get fed up. But
I have to say, there's a lot of this is the first time I've been sort of in the third sector, if you like. So I've always been in I guess the commercial world, and I'm quite surprised at how how much repetition there is across the sector, and actually how much more efficient we could be. But that is really hard without more support, and I do think that's something that our sector desperately needs is more, not just support, but long-term support. So we could have organisations that are funded on a 12-month basis. That's fine. But actually, how on earth are you supposed to make plans and really get true impact if you can only look 12 months in advance? Really difficult.
That's right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Well,
it all sounds really depressing, doesn't it?
Push for it. Because
we're all doing amazing
because it's
things.
so urgent. It's so urgent. But we've got to work it out how one of the things we've got a new AM called Sarah Murphy, and she MA they're called now, aren't they? Sorry, MA. She's was our chairperson for 12 months, and she's totally into it, the environment. So we've got this is what I'm saying. I think we've just got to. They can see. She's 30 something. Where's the future going to be if these politicians don't act and back these initiatives that push the public along with them? That's it.
I think I do think that is beginning. I think that is beginning to change. I just think, we're in a different world where we know that it needs to be a lot quicker. But hey, at least it's happening in Wales.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good stuff happening.
Yeah, you're right. And I think we might have to close now, but just to say it's been great to meet you this way, and I hope to come and see you at some stage. And I hope you come down to Porthcawl and see us.
Yeah, definitely.
And we learn from each other, because it's really important. In it, you learn a little bit about that, or a little about the. Oh yeah, I never thought.
Yeah.
It's really important to share our experiences, and it's been great talking to you both today. And even though the technology wasn't with me at the beginning, you got there.
Thanks,
as ever.
Thanks, Margaret. Yeah.
Thank
nice
you.
To meet you all.
Thank you very much.
Bye.